Just be present here, see all your beautiful faces, the light shining through. Welcoming those people on live stream. I know I have a few friends that live in British Columbia that are joining us today. I thought I'd start by just reading the little blurb on my poster about this talk, just because I really like it. And hopefully I can live up to it. We'll see. We spend so much of our lives trying to find the light, chasing it, praying for it, trying to deserve it, when the deeper truth is actually far simpler. We are the light. My hope today is to explore what happens when we stop treating enlightenment as something to be earned and instead begin recognizing it as our natural illumined state. While the ego may fuss, panic, and reach for its spiritual to-do list, the light that dwells within every human heart remains steady, quietly and patiently awaiting our return. Today, I'd like to explore how a simple shift in identity and perspective can dissolve what we perceive as darkness and reveal the brilliance that has been shining in us all along. Now, that's a pretty lofty goal, isn't it? Where do we begin with a topic as large as life itself? The word light can easily be replaced with God or life or divine intelligence. Use whatever word you like. But let's use light for now and start at the very beginning. As Doug Craig mentioned in his talk last week, at the exact moment of conception, when sperm meets egg, there is a literal flash of light known as the zinc spark. When I first heard that, it made me wonder if we weren't so much born into the world as sparked into existence. I love the sound of that, don't you? That before we had a name, a personality, or a story, there was light. Today, I'd like to take us on a three-part journey because as I see it, there are three gentle steps that take us from seeking the light to becoming the light. The first step is recognizing the light in ourselves and in each other. And that can also be described as the illumined mind. The second step is sharing that light, which is the awakening of the heart. And the third step, becoming the light, is the realized soul or enlightenment. And it's not so much a three-step linear process as it is a gradual awakening to the truth that we already are. And I think we go in and out of these phases on our journey. Before I go any further, I'd like to share an analogy that has been really helpful to me in seeing the light and the world in a completely different way. Imagine, if you will, that I'm holding a small lamp with a bare bulb that's burning bright, and that lamp is plugged into an infinite source of power. This lamp represents our inner light, sparked at the moment of conception, and it continues to burn brightly, whether we're aware of it or not. As we grow up, we gradually start adding lampshades, don't we? The first lampshade is our body, and that's a fairly transparent lampshade, but then more lampshades appear. Our family dynamics, our roles, our stories, our political views. And before long, we lose awareness of our light altogether and start to believe we are our lampshades. Not only that, but we begin seeing only one another's lampshades, forgetting that beneath every single one is the same steady light. We argue over lampshades, we defend them, we judge them, and if we're honest, that is what constitutes the world we live in, both personally and globally. All the while, at the very core, We are all plugged into the same infinite source, and we all shine equally bright. No single person has cornered the market on the light. The Dalai Lama's light is no more brilliant than a certain politician's light, and you can fill in the name of that politician depending on the color of your lampshade. We all come from the same source. That's why I believe the first step in awakening is simply to recognize the light in ourselves and each other, and to look past the lampshades, both our own and those we project onto others, and see what is truly there. Reminds me of one of my favorite song lyrics. I'm going to look twice at you till I see the Christ in you. Just take that in for a minute. And each of us has our own way of practicing this, whether it's smiling at a stranger on the street or looking into the eyes of our bank teller. There's a saying that the most important person in the world is the one standing right in front of you. Which, come to think of it, might make me pretty important right now because I'm standing in front of a bunch of people. But really, all it takes is just a real present moment awareness, and perhaps a little more listening and a bit less talking. There's a saying that if a pickpocket walks past a saint, all he sees is pockets. How different would our world be if we saw the saintly, the innocence in one another, instead of our own projections? I don't think anyone would deny, in theory at least, that we are the light. We sing about it almost every Sunday. The challenge, of course, isn't agreeing with it on Sunday morning, but remembering it on a Tuesday afternoon, especially when we're triggered by someone else's lampshade. Those moments when someone cuts us off in traffic, questions our authority, or heaven forbid, dares to disagree with us, are actually incredibly revealing. I've come to see that being triggered isn't a failure on my part. It's simply information. It shows me where I am blocking my own light. The truth is, we wouldn't be triggered if there wasn't in ourselves that we need to release. And the deeper truth is that we often call in the very people and circumstances that reveal what we are blind to in ourselves. So I like to think of those moments as more of a setup than an upset. And often it takes a gift of time to see the difference, doesn't it? In July of 1987, I was living in Vancouver and had come to Calgary to visit my mom. Back then, the West Edmonton Mall was a really big deal, and I wanted my daughter to see it. So my mom and my two nieces, my daughter and I, decided to drive to Edmonton. Well, we got as far as Red Deer when I had this very strange feeling inside, and I just couldn't go any further. So we decided to stop in Red Deer, get a hotel. The girls didn't mind. There was a pool in the hotel, and carry on to Edmonton the next day. So I'm sitting at breakfast. I say, yeah, let's go, let's go to Edmonton. Let's see the West Edmonton Mall. And we pile in the car, and about 10 minutes up the road, this same strange feeling came over me, which I recognize now as a panic attack. And I just said to my mom, I can't go any further. And bless her heart, she just went along with it. So we drove back to Calgary, and I found out that that was when a huge tornado went through Edmonton, killing, I think, 23 people, causing millions of dollars of damage. And if we'd kept driving, we could very well have been impacted by it. So was that an upset or a setup? So recognizing the light with the mind, as important as it is, isn't enough. Many spiritual seekers stop there. I know I have over time. because the ego is quite content with having an illumined mind, isn't it? The spiritual ego can be one of the trickiest lampshades to let go of. It reminds me of a quote by Leo Biscaglia. Those of you who think you know it all are really irritating to those of us that do. And how many of us have been caught in that kind of thinking? It might just be me, but I'm pretty mesmerized by what I think I know. How about you? How willing are you? How willing am I to admit that I actually don't know very much? Even Jesus himself said, I of myself can do nothing. The Father, the light within me, does the work. Let's turn now to step 2, sharing the light. This is the journey from the mind to the heart. This is where we choose connection over correction. And just how do we awaken our hearts? We awaken our hearts by sharing the light, by giving it away, which turns out to be surprisingly effortless because we were designed to be channels of the light after all and not containers. It is the nature of light to emanate. I'm reminded of a documentary I watched years ago called The Artist is Present, and it made a huge impression on me. In 2010, a Serbian performance artist named Marina Abravic created an installation in the Museum of Modern Art in New York. She set up 2 chairs in the middle of a large room facing each other, and she sat in one chair, perfectly silent, perfectly motionless, for 7 hours a day, 6 days a week, for an entire 3 months. And that in itself is an accomplishment. Visitors to the museum were invited to sit across from her and meet her gaze in silence. Marina was pretty much kept herself in a meditative state, and when someone occupied the chair, she would just look up and with loving kindness, look directly into their eyes. And what followed was phenomenal. I think many people were actually seen for the first time in their lives, and many wept. It was an extraordinary experience for anyone that participated. And interestingly enough, at first people were really hesitant to take the chair. And as time went on, there was a long lineup of people that wanted to have that experience with her. I've since tried to watch that video again. I can't find it anywhere, but there's snippets of it on YouTube if you ever want to check it out. It's called The Artist is Present. And the good news is we don't have to set up an installation at the Museum of Modern Art in New York to share our light. I think there are as many ways to share the light as there are moments in the day and people in the world. It happens in countless ordinary ways. It's washing the dishes with awareness, blessing our food. It's hugging and welcoming each other here on a Sunday morning, brushing the cat, or it's simply standing here sharing as authentically as I can. And it's coming into a deeper awareness and appreciation for what is here rather than what is wished for. I'm sure if you reflect on the week past, you will find countless ways in which you not only recognize the light, but shared the light, as the two go hand in hand, really. And if not, well, today's a new day. So far we've talked about recognizing the light and sharing the light. And now we arrive at what may sound like the most puzzling step of all, becoming the light. After all, how do we become something we already are? Off the top of my head, I would say that's a natural result of letting go of everything we are not. Remember those lampshades? I could only speak from my own experience, but for me, those moments of truly knowing myself as the light have never come from striving or struggle. They have been the natural result of a daily devotional practice to raise my vibration and align with what is already true. For me, that has taken many forms over the years: breath work, meditation, visiting my trees at Fish Creek Park, listening to uplifting voices in podcasts. And I would say turning off the news, but I never turned it on in the first place. So just to focus my energy on what lifts and not what drains. Every Sunday, we say together that we are committing to living in the love vibration. And I think it's more than a lovely notion, because when it is fully embodied, love is the most powerful force in the universe. It may be that light is just the constant emanation of the love vibration, always present, always flowing, always inviting us home. And I also think that becoming the light is a very gradual process. Oh, I know there have been those throughout history who have had spontaneous awakenings, and we've all been blessed by their teachings. But for most of us, awakening to the light we already are is a much more subtle process. You may discover that those people and activities that once brought you pleasure no longer resonate, and there's a natural letting go. For instance, I used to be a smoker until one day I wasn't. And it wasn't because I battled to quit smoking, it was because I was just in another frequency where smoking didn't fit anymore. And truth, I used to enjoy Manhattan every night, shaken, not stirred, for all you James Bond fans. And now I can barely get through a glass of wine. Again, just doesn't match my frequency. And that can be scary, can't it? When old patterns of behavior dissolve and the new haven't quite revealed themselves. Boredom and a sense of unease can set in. I'm sure a lot of us have felt that in this 2025, right? I liken it to a caterpillar in a chrysalis. The old is dissolving and there isn't a butterfly wing in sight. That's where trust and faith become our allies. Picture yourself as a caterpillar moving about your day, inching along leaf by leaf, measuring your success on how much ground you can cover compared to the other caterpillars, never questioning your purpose. And then, without warning, something changes. Not on the outside, but deep within, you feel a call you can't explain. I think we have all felt that call, or we wouldn't be here in this room. It's a gentle insistence to stop moving forward in the same old familiar way and to surrender instead to stillness. You find yourself in that liminal state between what was and what can be. So you retreat to the dark safety of the chrysalis, to a place where progress no longer looks like motion and growth no longer looks like achievement. This is when I take to my couch. Just allow those higher frequencies to integrate, right? Those butterfly cells to start to strengthen. So the letting go process is not comfortable, but it is necessary if we were ever to come into full expression of the light. What are the words in the song? Living in the love vibration, letting go of all that I know. I love that, Anthony. Unity principle number 5 is that it is not enough to understand spiritual teachings. We must live the truth we know. We must become the butterflies we were born to be. And what I'm discovering is that this is not something that can be done in isolation. While time spent alone is important, even critical to our spiritual awakening, finding our family of frequency or community is equally important. Finding our family of frequency because we need each other to navigate these turbulent times in the world. As Thomas More said, swept away by the Spirit, we'd like to become angels, but steeped in the soul, we'd like a good meal with friends. And the first Sunday of every month, we do just that, don't we, with our potlucks? So we've gone from recognizing the light to sharing the light to becoming the light, which isn't so much as a becoming as it is dissolving into the light. To close, I'd like to share a little parable about a salt doll, and then we'll go into our meditation. A salt doll journeyed for thousands of miles over land until it finally came to the sea. It was fascinated by this strange moving mass, quite unlike anything it had ever seen before. "Who are you?" said the doll to the sea. The sea, smiling, said, "Come in and see." So the doll waded in. The further it walked into the sea, the more it dissolved, until there was only very little of it left. Before the last bit dissolved, the doll exclaimed in wonder, "Now I know what I am." And once we know ourselves as that sea, we no longer have to worry about making a splash. We can just be.